Hi, everybody. Please confirm if you can hear me. And um,
Hello.
hello. Hi, Ebele. Hi, Aisha. Hi,
Hello,
Ashley.
Bufa.
Hi,
Yeah,
welcome.
you
Thank you
loud
so
and
much for
clear.
joining. Thank you for joining, since the small stories that Nigeria almost happened to me before this poll, um, but I prevailed. Okay, so let me just admit all the other people waiting on the poll, and then we will start in about 2 minutes. Sorry. Okay. I was saying good afternoon, everyone, or good day, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining the class so early. So this is our policy and development masterclass. We're so excited. I'm so excited that you're here today. So if you've been in the other masterclasses, we started the masterclass series by learning to leverage partnerships for personal growth or business growth. And then last week we had a session on digital content strategy. You know, there's a lot of us that make use of digital media today to sell out products or services. So that was very interesting. And then today we're exploring how these same skills can impact public policy and societal change. And the reason why I'm very happy for this class is because I feel like this is not the kind of thing that young people usually would hold a master class on. So I'm very excited for the class today. Even more excited because of the person who's going to be talking to us on this topic. So if you are passionate about creating change, then this session is definitely for you. But before we dive in, there's a list of subjects to today's class. I'm going to be moderating the class with my colleague Aisha Mohammed. Aisha, please say hi. You can unmute or you can drop a wave in the chat box so that we can see you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Aisha. Welcome. So we're going to
Thank
just do
you.
okay, thank you. We're going to do a small wellness check before we dive in. Just drop one word in the chat that summarizes your mood for the day. I'll go first. So even if it's exhausted, right? That's okay. We've all been there. If it's happy, if it's Nigeria, anything at all, just drop a word in the chat box so I know that you're here. And then while you're typing that, I wanted to share that this class, sorry, I'm just trying to admit other people to the class. So if you see me looking at my screen, I wanted to add that this class is beyond just us learning. It's for us to build, inspire, it's for us to share. So when you drop how you're feeling, oh, I love what it says hopeful. I love hopeful. I was going to just say Nigeria, and I was sure that if I said it, I wouldn't even have to explain what I mean. But that's how I'm feeling today. So when you do the wellness check with the one word, if you are able to do this next thing for me, just drop your name, what you do, and your social. So I'll follow you with our page, all three of them, and then other people who like your work or your face or your page can then follow you too. So the first step is one word to know how you're feeling, and the second is to drop your name, what you do, and your socials, so we can connect and get to know each other. So we can do that in like 5 minutes, and then Aisha will come and introduce us to the next order of items for the day. I'm not going to keep my video on beyond this point because I'm trying to ensure that my network sustains us for the class. But I'll come back, and every time I have to speak, I will put on my video. So welcome to the class. This is All Havens Masterclass, and today we're talking about public policy and development, and it's going to be fun. So see you in a little bit. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Pelumi. Pelumi is a writer and a PM in the non-profit sector. Pelumi, I have this huge admiration for PMs. I love the work that you do, especially currently for the tech ecosystem. And then Ruth is a program manager at an NGO focused on using the creative arts to advocate for social change. This is Ruth's class. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, everyone who's dropped a word. So I'll just hand over to Aisha now, and then we'll continue the class. Thank you so much, everyone. Please just keep dropping your name and what you do um, throughout the class. Whenever you join, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bofa. Okay, so now that we've set the mood, let me quickly introduce you to Alt Haven. Alt Haven is your women only space where advocacy meets action. We're all about creating opportunities, fostering growth, and inspiring impact. We are a co-working space, a banking hub, a salon, a spa, a pop-up store, Let me just say all in one. So, and then there's the alternative bank, a digital first non-interest bank. It's not your ordinary traditional bank, it's a movement. If you're curious, you can learn more about us on altbank.ng. Okay, guys, so enough about us. Let's move on to why we are here today. Over to you, Bofa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Aisha. Like Aisha said, this class is put together by Old Haven, where women only space in Abuja. So we have these kind of classes. We've had two of these classes in this series before this one, and we have just one more next Saturday to wrap up for the entire month. And so if you've joined every of these classes rather from the beginning, thank you so much. You're the real MVP. You're the person that we should bring plenty soup and rice to for the holidays. So thank you so much for being here, yeah, from the beginning. So today in today's class, we're going to be having a very special, very impactful session with Ebele. Ebele is already in the class with us. So Ebele is a storyteller, and I know that sometimes that comes off as a buzzword, but she doesn't just inform, she inspires action. She inspires me, she inspires a lot of the women that have come across her. And she's all about taking complex ideas and shaping them into stories that you can easily digest, and you understand that these things matter and they can inform the sort of change that we all desire. So from crafting policies to creating digital stories, she's someone who's in awe and she's making it work. And today she's here to share her expertise in storytelling and impactful partnerships, sort of finding the sweet spot between research, storytelling, impactful partnerships, and seeing how we can then use that to create the change we desire in our systems. So please let's give Ebele a very warm clap in the chat box as she comes over. She comes to take over the mic. Ebele, you're welcome.
Thank you, Bofa, and
Thank you everyone for clapping.
thank you,
Sorry, very
Bofa, for
okay.
the introduction. And just to double check, do you want me to have my camera on or off?
So if you can turn it on in the beginning so that we can put a face
Oh,
to your notes, that would be very helpful. And then you don't have to put it on for the entire class.
that
Maybe
was
just now.
Hello,
Okay, thank
everybody.
you.
It's great to meet with
Hello.
you. Thank you, Bofa and
Hello.
Aisha, for kind of creating this platform, especially for women to come together and share ideas and learn from each other. I'm really excited to meet everybody. And basically, today I'm just here to share about research, storytelling, and impactful partnership for public policy. If you see me looking over here, it's not because I don't think you guys are like really important. It's because my notes are on my second screen. So as I'm sharing my screen with you, I might be looking in that direction, but it's just so that all of us are following the gist together, basically. Um,
No problem.
okay. Okay, so today we'll be talking about research, storytelling, and impactful partnership for public policy. My name is Ebele Monye. I have my bachelor's in economics from the University of Nigeria and my master's in international development policy from Georgetown. And I know that Bofa was so kind to explain that I'm a storyteller, and a lot of people might be curious about what the connection with storytelling and economics are. And if you're confused about that, I just want to say you're in the right place, because at the end of this session, our learning outcome is really to figure out what the interconnection between research, storytelling, and partnership are, and especially how they influence public policy. So we're going to get right into it because we have just like a little bit to cover, and I would really love for this class to be interactive. And Aisha and Bofa have given me very strict warning about how much time I have. So in the first place, we're just going to go right into research in public policy and why it's important. The first reason is because it gives us evidence-based insights for policy decisions. Because a lot of people in this room are Nigerians, I wanted to kind of like bring the story back home to a case that we can all relate to. So in the early 2000s, Nigeria had a very serious polio endemic. And, you know, the reason we knew that was happening was because like there was data available for us to kind of like make this evidence-based insights to say, okay, like, yes, this is an endemic, right? But in the second place, when we talk about like data and resources for impact evaluation, after the government found out that, okay, this is a very precarious situation, how do we kind of like solve this? It was they decided to implement a lot of policies, and there was no way for them to know how effective those policies were without having the data and resources for impact evaluation. So basically, what this whole fancy thing means is that they figured out that we had a polio endemic. They went to the field to collect data to find out, okay, who was this even affecting? How was it affecting them? And they were able to roll out a polio policy, a polio vaccination policy. And in this stage, they were trying to find out how effective the policy was. After finding out how effective their policies were, the data was also really useful for them to have proactive policies. So, for instance, it wasn't enough that they started stabilizing the rates of polio cases in Nigeria. They wanted it to be such that in subsequent years, there won't be kind of like an increase in polio cases or like paralysis cases from polio. It also helped them kind of like ensure that the policy was equitable, because when we talk about equitability in public policy, what it basically means is that you're targeting the right people. So by figuring out like who is the most likely to be affected by polio cases, for instance, they were able to target this and say, okay, these are the people that we should target when we are having our intervention programs. And then finally, sustainability in policy making. So when I started, I said that Nigeria had a polio endemic in the early 2000s. And the reason was because the government had to keep going back to the data that they had to see, okay, how can we make this sustainable such that there are no polio cases today, but in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, we're able to kind of keep that sustainable such that we don't have a rise or a tick in the next few years. And you might be wondering, okay, like when we decide to use research for public policy, what exactly does it entail? I talked a lot about how the government used data, but how did they even know what data to find and how did they know what to look out for? The first thing is problem identification. So in the first place, I said our example was the polio endemic in Nigeria. The Nigerian government figured out that we have this problem. So the first thing they did was that they identified the problem. The second thing is that they went out to collect data to find out again, who is this virus affecting? How is it affecting them? How is it transmitted? How can it be cured? The next thing is to find out, like, okay, hey, when they found out everything that they needed to find out about polio and how it spreads and everything, the next thing was, how do we solve this problem, and which people, like, who do we need to bring on board to help us kind of figure out how to solve these issues? And with that, they started developing their policy, they analyzed the policy and they started developing it for implementation. And at the end of the day, what they did was they communicated and disseminated the policies that they wanted. Okay, now I'm going to take a step back because I feel like when I started this presentation, I just went in and told you guys, hey, remember in the early 2000s, we had a polio endemic, right? But I really want to really explain what this project was, right? And really just bring it down to how research helped in this particular project so that we as Nigerians can really understand how we can bring in research in our public policy and in our policy analysis. So this project was done in collaboration with the World Bank and other entities. It's called the Partnership for Polio Eradication in Nigeria. And in the early 2000s, in 2002 specifically, there were 181 cases of wild polio. And by 2016, they had gone to 1,100. And obviously, the government was really worried because polio was starting to be one of the major reasons why people were getting paralyzed, and especially was affecting kids under the age of 5. So they really wanted a situation where they would bring down these numbers and hopefully eradicate the virus. And some ways that research helped in this particular situation was surveillance and data management. I explained a lot about the data management and how data comes in a situation like this, but surveillance especially to kind of like see, okay, from a geographic perspective, like where are these cases more prone, like who is really affected. The second thing was like innovation for reaching hard to reach areas. And what this means is a lot of us, like, I know that my family is really, really big on traveling for Christmas, for instance. And sometimes, like, even within areas that are not very rural, we have that issue where it's either like maybe there's flood or like there's areas that are too muddy, but basically places where people can't really receive access to healthcare. So the government was able to find these places because of the data that they had gotten and because of the surveillance they had done. And with this information, they were able to come up with economic analysis that were cost effective, even with regards to, okay, how do we transport these vaccines to, okay, how do we even call the people to give like the vaccine doses to them? And the fourth way it was really important was through case control studies. And what this means is kind of like, okay, it was really important, for instance, in identifying that the oral polio vaccine was the most effective. So back then, again, if you're Nigerian, you remember like there was this point where like everyone was getting this tiny plastic drop orally. So it was through research and through like trying out different mechanisms that they said, okay, there's option A, there's option B, and there's option C. And option C is the most effective. And the final thing is expert review committees. So the beauty of like research in public policy is that it's not a one-time thing, right? You do it and then you go back to check how effective it has been. Is there anything you need to change? And that's where this expert review committees come in, because they bring in experts, whether it's like the doctors, whether it's the people who are going into the field to administer these vaccines. And they ask them, hey, what have you learned? What can we do differently? And that really influences the next step of the action. So with this, we kind of like wrap up what research means in public policy. And I want to show you how it links to storytelling. Oh, sorry, before we go into how it links to storytelling, I want to show how research was important and some of the key wins that this project had. The first thing is that it interrupted the transmission of wild polio virus in Nigeria. It strengthened our healthcare system because for the vaccines to get to the places it needed to be, it meant that the government had to work with the state and local governments, thereby strengthening our healthcare. And most importantly, by 2020, Nigeria was declared free from polio. And the best way to see how public policy works, again, like I've said, is the data. And I want us to see what this data is in the polio case. So you see, like I said, like in the early 2000s, Nigeria started realizing like, hey, like there were polio cases. These were all the people that reported that they got paralyzed from polio-related cases. And we see that it started to dip a bit until 2006, where we had that highest rise. And this is when the government decided, hey, like we really need to bring in policies that really dip this number. What they did, we can see the result of these policies in the years that follow. By 2012, it was just 130 cases. In 2015, it was one case. And now in 2019, which is the most recent, it's about one case. So basically, like, this shows you how, because the government had the research, because they had the data, they were able to go back to the drawing board every time to see, okay, what is working, what can we change? And for them, the most important thing was to reduce the number of people who were affected by polio cases and to reduce the amount of people who got paralyzed by polio cases. And this is one example of how, research has helped us in public policy in our country. And how it links to storytelling is, in the first place, like, research really helps us simplify policies and program results. I know a lot of you might be really confused about, okay, like, now I'm learning what an endemic is. Now I didn't even know about this polio virus. And if you're feeling this way, it's really I don't want to say it's really beautiful in the sense that I don't want you to be confused, but it's beautiful you feel this way because you're going to see how storytelling really helps you drive this message home by simplifying policies and program results. And the second thing is that it really helps humanize complex policies. So it's one thing to say, like, hey, if you don't get this vaccine, anyone can get paralyzed. But by the time you see, okay, like, these are the children that have been affected by polio, these are the adults that have been affected by polio, it helps you really understand, like, oh yes, this is why I need to do it, because this is how it affects either me or people in my society. The next thing is engaging stakeholders, whether it's with regards to the people who are collecting the vaccines or it's with the people who are administering the vaccines. Storytelling really just helps create that clear sense of responsibility and action, just letting everybody know what their part is and what their role is. The next thing is promoting inclusivity and diversity. And especially in a country like Nigeria, where we have a lot of religions, we have a lot of cultures, we have a lot of languages, storytelling really just helps drive that message home by really using elements that are really important to each of these buckets or each of these types of people based on their demographics, whether it's with regards to, like, using languages to share information that is really important to people that they would otherwise not have understood in English. And the final one is to influence public opinions. So this basically means that a lot of times government have policies and people are not really sure what it is. And it's very easy for fear mongering to kind of become a theme. So storytelling really just helps say, like, hey, no, the government said that this vaccine, for instance, is free, or that this vaccine, for instance, is safe. They did this analysis. This is what they found out in other countries. It really helps just dispel the rumors and the fear mongering that will come with, otherwise putting things out in rigorous research. And again, what does it really entail? You say you want to create storytelling in your public policy space. How can you do that? The first thing is conducting assessment. So everything I said about research, everything I said about collecting data, research is really the backbone for storytelling in public policy, in the sense that you can't tell stories about how successful a program is if you haven't done the research. So the first step, conducting assessment. The second thing is really simplification of policy jargon. So for instance, the government decided, hey, we want to roll out free polio vaccines to people. But how do we really simplify it in a way that everyday people can really understand and know, like, okay, this is the advantage of this vaccine for you, and it has absolutely no harm or any harmful effects on your life. So this is where you come to, like, hey, how do we simplify the key aspects of this policy? The third thing is humanizing the results and policies. Again, when you identify the people that you need to communicate to, how do you reach them where they are and really communicate to them in a way that they understand? The fourth thing is promoting inclusivity and diversity. Basically, like, ensuring that by communicating with people, you're using elements that they connect with, either in terms of, like, their religion or their culture. And the final thing is creating emotional connections. A lot of times when people hear about policies, they may seem a bit like far removed from their present reality. However, if you create that emotion that lets them see, like, oh no, this could actually be someone close to me or myself, it helps them kind of key in more into understanding the message of your policy. And because I said this class was going to be interactive and because I've talked for a while, I'm going to stop and we're all going to watch a video. This is an example of how storytelling and research come together for public policy. This video is a little bit dated because this is a video I got from about 15 years ago when Nigeria rolled out her own polio vaccine. And while this video plays, I'm going to mute myself. Wait. First of all, please, before Aisha, confirm if you can hear when it starts playing, because I don't know if I shared my screen with the volume, but if it did not, then I will.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll listen. So there's, oh, you can hear because I can't. But I don't know if that's a new thing because Aisha has given me a thumbs up. Okay, somebody else give a thumbs up too. So I can't hear it until everyone can.
No, I can't
No,
hear.
I
I can't hear,
Can't
but
hear, right?
I can see the
Okay,
screen.
because I
Yeah.
can't hear either. Yeah,
Okay,
we
so
can see
I
the
will
screen. Yes, we
stop
can.
sharing my screen for 2 seconds and start again.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll try that again. Okay, please let me know if you can hear it now when it starts playing.
Yes, I can hear it. I
Polio
think we can
was
hear it
first
now. Yeah.
described by Michael Underwood in 1789. Highly infectious disease that mainly paralyzes and may even kill mostly children below 5 years.
Polio virus can be contacted through what we call the fecal oral route. That is when the feces, it's a cycle, past the feces, maybe to water or to the environment. The virus can go into the mouth, then it can be passed out again. Somebody can take it. If one child is paralyzed from poliomyelitis, it is highly likely that about 200 children in that environment must have gotten the virus.
In 1988, 166 countries of the World Health Assembly, Nigeria inclusive, resolved to save the world from polio infection by year 2000. As a result, infected children have decreased by over 99% since 1988, from an estimated 350,000 then to just 1,997 reported in 2006. Today, Nigeria is the only polio endemic country in Africa, and in fact accounts for over 80% of all polio infected children in the world. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Alhaji Musayer Adua, will stop at nothing to ensure that children from this giant of Africa are saved from paralysis due to polio.
I do everything possible, humanly possible and even beyond, to ensure that polio is finally totally eradicated from Nigeria. I will work hard, myself and members of this administration, to meet up to your expectations.
There is no cure for polio infection. It can only be prevented with oral polio vaccine given multiple times during house-to-house campaigns or at health centers during routine immunization sessions. Your children have a right to a healthy life. You have the power to protect them from polio infection with oral polio vaccine. It's safe. It's free.
Okay, so thank you for watching that video with us. And just before I continue, I would like for us to talk a little bit about what elements of storytelling or research that we already discussed popped out to you in this 2-minute 41-second video. Bofa and Aisha, I don't really know how you do this, but if anyone has anything to say, like please feel free to either raise your hand or drop it in the chat box. Yes, Ruth, please.
All right, so for me, I can say what stood out is data collection. So, like you mentioned, it's important to have insight into what is. So, I saw that they knew the number of polio cases before they started out action, before they started putting out public policies in place and taking action to curb it, and they watched the decline. So at the outset, it's important to have data, but even throughout the period of making sure that the policy is effective, it's also important to keep monitoring your data collection.
Thank you. You're very correct. Data is really, really important. And as you can see, like they also really put a lot of data points in the video when they were explaining kind of like who does it affect, how does it affect people, what age. All of these are data points that they use. So that was a very good catch. Me in the chat says the showing of real stories slash people affected by polio, and that's also something else that I mentioned in the sense that you kind of like humanize a policy or you humanize the data. It's not enough to say that people are affected. How does it affect people? Who does it affect? So thank you for me. You're very correct. I see that Bukola has their hands up.
Yeah, Bukola Taiwo, I hear you.
Hello, everyone. What stood out for me also in the video, aside from data collection, is the engagement of stakeholders. Even the president, the then president, Yaradua, had to speak on it, and he gave like a firm affirmation that his government and everyone they're working with would ensure that polio is eradicated, and they took actionable steps which were informed by data. So he actually like everything you explained before the video actually came into play, like the importance of research and assessment before the project, the kind of implementation, and how public policy will also shape, like putting a human face, humanizing the policies actually like stood out for me. But engaging stakeholders is just something I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bukola. And your point really resonates with Pelumi's, which she put in the group chat, which is really that kind of like top to bottom engagement with stakeholders. That's something that's very, very important in public policy. Like you need to get the buy-in of the people. And for you to get the buy-in of the people, everyone needs to show that this is something that's really serious to them. So the video you could see, there was a doctor who was, I think, the director of one of the national bodies that was in charge of implementing the vaccine. And the president was there as well, and kind of like getting these videos and these clips and interviews from different people. All of this is really important to get the buy-in of people. Thank you very much for indulging me with your responses. I don't see any other hands or see any other comments. So also because, like I said, I have been given very strict instructions to keep to the plot and not like divert too much. So I will kind of like finish up with the rest of the presentation. Like something else we also saw from that video that I hadn't mentioned initially is the last part of this presentation, which is basically impactful partnerships for public policy. You see that in that video, yes, we did see the Nigerian component. We saw the president. We saw the director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. The Federal Ministry of Health, I don't think there was an interview from someone there, but they were also there behind the scene. Everyone on this screen, I believe there are about 11 of them, were all responsible for coming together to make sure that these polio vaccines reached the people that needed them. And so this is where partnership really comes in. And the beautiful thing with partnership in public policy is that everybody brings what their stronghold is to the table. For some people, it's the research. For some people, it's the money. For some people, it's the actual agents that go into the field, right? And so as you think about, hey, how can I play a role in public policy, whether it's with regards to research, whether it's with regards to storytelling, whether it's with regards to fostering partnership, you can either look at all of these organizations, see the different places they work, the different areas they work in, or you can even decide like, hey, this is a little niche that I've found that I can, for instance, partake in. Something that many people might not have, something that might not have jumped out to a lot of people here is the fact that, for instance, the video we just watched was created by someone. So your contribution to impactful partnership, storytelling, and research for public policy could be with regards to writing blogs, publishing publications, but we'll talk more about that in the next slide, where we talk about the mythbusters. So the first mythbuster is that a lot of people always think that you have to be in the government to contribute to public policy. I, for one, am not a government official in any way, but I just want to remind you that you can join research institutions. I've also talked about the fact that you can even join videography, photography, graphics design. like your creativity can shine in any way. If you're more research inclined, if you're more data inclined, whatever it is, just, like you don't need to be in the government. And myth number one is really linked to my second myth, which is that you need to be involved in every aspect. That's not the truth. I think the beauty of being a human being is that each of us have our strengths and our weaknesses. So find what your strength is and kind of like stick to it, find your niche, stick to it, stay committed, get better every day. And the final thing is that you're too young or too old to contribute to public policy. And that is the biggest lie of all. I tell people anytime, like, whenever you wake up, my people have a saying, "Ogema jujiteshi buche." Whenever you wake up, that's your morning, beautiful, like whatever big or little way that you found that you can really contribute to public policy in your location, like don't be shy, most importantly, and don't think you're either too young or too old. And with this, I hope I've been able to convince you that there is really that interconnection with partnership, research, and storytelling for public policy. And I hope that you've been able to learn what that interconnection is and learn how you can also play a role. And yeah, with that, I come to the end of my presentation. I think I made good time, but I think like Bofa and Aisha are owing me time, so I'll be coming for that later. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I can see all you guys. Thank you so much for clapping, for engaging. There's like 53 of us on this call. Thank you. And then there's even still more people joining. I think that if you were in the last class, you'd know that I was so nervous because we spent like an extra, and I kept saying, oh, the time is going. And I didn't want us to feel like tired before we ask our questions. But good for us. We still have a lot of time. And we owe Ebele like 30 something minutes. So if you have something about storytelling for public policy, storytelling for societal change, social good, if your question is around how to partner with people, or generally like, okay, what's my business in all this stuff, please feel free to unmute, don't be shy. We'd like to hear your voice, your face. And otherwise, you can put your comments in the chat box. And it doesn't have to be a question. Right. Okay. So Bukola's hand is up. So you can just be a comment. Okay, Bukola, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to say thank you so much for organizing this. When I saw this on Instagram, I said this is the right thing. This is what I needed at this moment because I am doing my master's in public policy analysis, and I've always had an interest in conflict and gender sensitive reporting for conflict and crisis. And earlier this week also I was in Benue State, Makodi. And being there, I was thinking so much around how I can harness the women's economic empowerment policy that was just launched and how it could be used to help women in the conflict zone areas in Benue. I mean, when we talk about conflict zone areas, we rarely highlight Benue, despite the fact that Benue is having farmers' elders crisis and all of that. So my question is, what can I do? I know that I need to do a needs assessment, right? I've put that in my to-do list for next year, but I don't know I'm new to this space and it's something I'm really interested in. So what are the things I need to do? I know I need to first do a needs assessment to really understand the situation of the women who are actually in the family, female farmers who are affected by banditry, and also understand their perspective of what can help them. But in terms of partnership funding, because I've also been looking at the areas of if I need to do a needs assessment, then I need to travel to Benue State. Then I need to stay there for at least 2 weeks or more, gathering research, sharing questionnaires, having focus groups. So, the funding aspect, the partnership aspect, what do you think can work in all of this that has just explained? I hope you get my question.
Okay, so I'll explain it back to you. So if I didn't get you correctly, you will kind of let me know. I think what you said is that there is a women economic program that has just launched, and you're thinking of going to Bono to kind of conduct an analysis. Is that it?
Yes, but Benue, not Borno.
Sorry, Benue. You're thinking of going to Benue to conduct an analysis. So
yes.
Again, I feel like they've given me strict warning, but I just have to ask you a follow-up question. When you say you're thinking of creating an analysis, what kind of analysis are you looking to create and why? I'm just trying to see so I can give you the most useful advice.
Okay. Okay, so I'm coming from the programmatic angle. I
Mm-hmm.
work with an NGO and I
Mm-hmm.
also own an NGO, and I'm looking to find a way to understand what women in this conflict zone areas need for their economic empowerment.
I
So the
understand.
bottom line of assessment is to understand their needs and find a way to now bring this need, transform this need into concept notes and proposals that can be used to create support for the women there.
Okay, I understand you now. So, in the first place, I think what you're trying to do, like your first point of call, your needs assessment, your head is in the right place. Just in general, I feel like for things like this, what I always say to people, when you're running projects like this, the most important people are the people you are running the project for. So it's not for you to kind of like go into the society and start projecting, oh, I know, I think you guys need houses, or I think you guys need cars. No, they're the ones to tell you what you need. So your approach of getting the whole needs assessment is really important. One thing that I would suggest and urge you to do is, the part where we talked about like stakeholder engagement and research, in the sense that there may have been other people who have tried to do something similar to what you're doing. I would really encourage you to do a lot of research to find out who those people are. First of all, in terms of, are there individuals who are carrying out studies? I know you say you're looking at this from the programmatic aspect, but a lot of times people who run these programs are kind of like influenced by research. In the second place, I know you talked a lot about like funding and kind of like the funding need that you have, in the sense that you want to be able to travel to Benue to meet with these women and to interact with them. So my suggestion for that would be, especially since you're running I don't know, were you the one? I'm sorry, I feel I'm having people confused, but I think it was Ruth or you who said you're running a public policy program. But even if you're not, like even if this is just from the programmatic aspect, in the sense that it's for the work you do for your NGO, for your own personal NGO, I really urge you to really look for other NGOs in this space, whether it's within Nigeria or it's in international communities, who have either the same gender lens or the same like economic empowerment lens or the same like FCB lens as this project that you want to do. In the sense that you can take your proposal to them and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And this is why I think it's important. And my final suggestion slash point on this is, a lot of times people are more willing to buy into your projects or your dreams for public policy or social change if you have some sort of traction. So it's one thing to say like, hey, I believe if I go to Benue, I will see these people and they'll give me results. And it's another thing to say, hey, so I went to Benue initially to kind of like see what the situation on ground is. This is what I found. However, I need more to kind of like expand in this area. And this is the exact thing I'm going to use the money that you gave me for. So I really just like recommend in the first place doing research to find out what programs already exist, what individuals are already there, creating a proposal, reaching out to people, but if possible, kind of like creating as much traction as you can, so that when you're reaching out to people, you kind of like have something concrete that you can show to them that you've already started off. Did that answer your question?
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Ruth had her hand up.
Yes, she did. Okay. So Ruth, you
Okay,
can still let me see. Okay. All
good
right, over to you.
afternoon everyone
Yes.
again, and thank you so much, Ebele, for that wonderful session. It was very insightful. So for me, my question is basically in terms of should I
I can't hear you. I don't know if it's me or everybody.
I
oh
can't hear Ruth either. Yes. Now I can hear you, but when you were speaking, you
okay.
went off. Yeah.
Okay, my apologies for that. So I said that my question is basically like a clarity question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in pursuing a master's in public policy, but I did not have a first degree in public policy or anything related. I had a degree in education, but I'm quite passionate about family welfare policies and child policies, and I'm trying to merge and combine them. I recently got to work with an NGO, but they are more focused on youth than children and family. So it's been quite a struggle, and I'm trying to find out how do I, number one, partner with organizations in terms of I've come to understand the Nigerian space, there are not much organizations on family welfare. Yes, that's one thing. Most of the organizations I find are international organizations that do not have a base in Nigeria, except maybe the Ministry of Women Affairs. So they do not have a body that champions family welfare policies and policies for children like that. And also, in my application, how can I craft my application in such a way that even if I have not had the opportunity to gain hands-on experience in this field, I can be seen as a suitable source to apply for this field? I don't know if you get my question.
Yes, I do. Okay. So um I'll answer your second question first, which is like how can you craft your profile such that in your application you can tell them that you're really interested in family welfare and child policy, even though you don't have the previous experience. My personal subjective view about public policy is that a lot of problems that we deal with are really interconnected in the way that, or in the sense that, for instance, if your family is going through medical emergencies, it might affect schooling outcomes or even like business outcomes and things like that. So the first thing that I want to tell you is like every knowledge that you have in every public policy field that you have is really transferable. So what you want to do in that application is to tell them like these are the methodologies, these are the research systems, these are the programs that I was exposed to with my other roles. You know, this is how it relates to the program that I'm going to do in the sense that maybe is it qualitative research? Is it like stakeholder engagement? Is it with regards to going like do you have experience like field research, for instance, working directly with people who these programs affect? So it's just your ability to sell them those transferable skills that you have and to let them know because the reason you're going for your master's is to really deepen your understanding on an area that you found either interesting or a gap in. So you being able to tell them with everything that I have learned from all my experiences working with youth and children and, you know, like education and things like this, like I want to bring it down. Like this is now where I want to focus because of this gap that I have found. That's how I would craft it if it were me. And with regards to how to partner with organizations, especially since a lot of Nigerians don't look, there aren't a lot of, especially because you haven't found a Nigerian organization that really deals with family welfare, especially from the family welfare and child perspective. Honestly, like I feel like this is not to sound hopelessly optimistic, but I do think that everything that we need to make development and public policy work in this world have not yet been invented. And that's where you and I come in. I'm not saying like go and form the first or the biggest one, you know, but it could be something that you decide like, hey, maybe when I go to grad school, I might meet another Nigerian and both of us will like create an NGO that specifically caters to this kind of like this area that we have we have discovered. And this is really something similar because for me in my work, what I really focus on is the digital economy and financial inclusion. But I do have an NGO that's focused on education. And how that came about is that during my NYSC, I was posted to a school and I realized that my students were not writing exams for many reasons. And on top of that list was lack of tuition fee. Like they couldn't afford to pay the tuition fee. And so my friends and I eventually like started an NGO to specifically cater to kids from low income home who were really gifted, but for one reason or the other, didn't have the scholarship or mentorship that they needed for school. So my advice to you is more like an encouragement. It's like don't be dissuaded by the fact that there are too few people doing what you want to do. I urge you to like what you're doing now, like sessions like this, meeting people is a really beautiful way to see people who have similar interests as you. But most importantly, if it continues years down the line and there is still that limitation with regards to people in this field, like don't be shy to start off something and you don't have to be perfect to start things. Like the way you are is already like you even figuring out that this
Eh?
even exists, that's already beautiful.
One?
And that's kind of like this the first step that you need. So yes.
Okay, Ruth, does that? Okay, I think that was Ruth. Is that a good answer for you? Because
Ina jin wasu suna magana.
right.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
No, ai sai ka ɗaga
So,
hannu ka nemi permission.
Ma'am Binta, do you want to ask a
Intro.
question?
Hello? Hello?
Hello,
Yes, we
Good
can
Binta.
hear you.
We're here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Uh, I have registered for the program because I feel that the side that I came from in Nigeria, here, northwest, precisely Kano State, we have been, I can't say we have been left out completely, but there are less of such activities that you are doing now. This response to public policies, how you go about doing it. And I always like anytime that I have an opportunity to address an issue as in advocacy or being invited to a particular gathering to speak, I usually look into issues concerning our country in different perspectives. And I feel I have to join in here to know how do I go about partnerships with, and how do I create, what do you call it, an NGO or a group whereby I could synthesize, because I feel that majority of the things that is happening in the north is because of lack of voice. We don't, our youth, our women, our men, I don't know whether it is shying away from, and I cannot and I refuse to accept that it is because of religious factor or cultural factor. Because as I'm speaking to you now, I'm 60 years old. So I have passed through processes from my secondaries and primary school, secondary school days, my university days. I know that we talk. You voice out what disturbs you. You address issues that are within your locality, your nationality, and international space. But nowadays, I don't know what is wrong with most of us here. So I feel there has to be, and there are, because we used to talk outside the scene that we should say so, so, and so. But how do you go about doing that? That is the reason why I registered for this forum. Hello?
Hello, thank
Hello?
you.
Please, are you hearing me?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I
yes.
heard you.
Yes, thank you, Binta. Yes, we heard you. Thank you very much for your contribution and also for your passion of to basically like share and foster partnerships, especially like in the Northwest and in Kano State. With regards to like, again, I feel these are all my thoughts, very subjective thoughts. With regards to like, how can you foster partnership? How can you sensitize people in your community? I really think in the first place, what you're doing now, joining this event is one of those ways. Sharing what your interests are for policy is one of those ways, in the sense that I know that I have gone for events and met people who had similar passions as me. And after the event, we really we connected and kind of decided, okay, maybe we should have this collaboration, NGO to NGO. Something else I would really
That's
say is I think that public policy, it takes a very long time. You know, sometimes we have very good intentions and we go off to, let's say, like sensitize the community, and we wish everyone could take our message and really understand what we are saying the way that we want it, as fast as we want it. But the truth is that social change takes a lot of time. So as you do your best, like as you put this message into as many spaces as you can, as you continue to meet people and grow your network, also be patient with the process and know that a lot of like the polio results I showed, for example, at the beginning, like the beginning of that graph started from 2006. And before we could get to a place where there were zero polio rate, it was like 2019, 2018. This is almost 20 years later. So I tell people, even for myself, like a lot of public policy research or storytelling that I push, I know that some of them will be achieved in my lifetime. Some of them might not be achieved in my lifetime. But for me, I think like the most important thing is that we do our best in our generation with our voice, with our platform. We live in a world where people have access to a lot of like digital platforms, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram. Use your voice as much as you can. Use your gifts as much as you can. That's why I said like everyone has a niche. If it's blogs, if what you can do is come for events like this, share your
Kaka ƙara taka wurin da takalma don
5
Allah.
to 3 minutes. Like basically anything
Sorry.
that you can do is um anything that you find to be your strong points, keep on doing it and keep encouraging friends to come along. For instance, with this women's series that Old Heaven has put together, I know a lot of us are here today because like a friend shared this and we saw it. So that's part of it. It takes like one person, like it takes a while, but all we need to do is spread the message to as many people as we can, one person at a time. So like thank you, Binta, like you're doing a great work and just like continue to encourage the people around you. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to even add that. So one of the reasons why when we put the class together, this was very important for us because like when you really look at the trajectory, there's like partnerships, there's digital, there's then public policy, then we're going into filmmaking. And the truth is, beyond having to learn from the experts, there's a lot of women here. For me, I write and I write very well sometimes. So if you have something that you need to say and you've met me in this kind of meeting and I can say, oh, I can write, and maybe you can speak, and then the next person can draw very well, and the next person knows how to use Excel because I don't know how to use Excel at all. So it's for us to come together and say, what if you handle the writing? I will read out what you've said, so I do the voicing of it, and then for if we want to take this into niche communities, what if we do like a design, and then we can share. These days, people don't take flyers off the street, so if we do digital art, maybe someone is going to read it. So that's really what this is about. It's like for us to say, okay, the experts have said this is the direction to take, but like we here, we're all women here. We either serve organizations or we're leading them, or we're doing both. So it's for us to like really, come together and advocate for the change that, yes, teamwork, Abasi, and Mayanga. Thank you so much. So that's the words. I just wanted to put that in. Thank you, Ebele, and thank you, Ms. Mambinta. And thank you so much for joining this at 60. You sound very energetic, very passionate. I don't think that's something, that comes by very often. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's very inspiring as well.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So I don't see any other hands up. Does anybody have questions? Okay. So Tosin says, please, do you have previous series posted on YouTube? How can we access past sessions? So the sessions aren't on YouTube right now. I don't know if it was an omission that we're waiting to finish the entire series before we upload them, but I can grant you access to the previous videos. So usually when you get the invite, say for the next session, you would see the video for this session. But there's just like a little bit of privacy thing that we do is we grant you access. So we know that you want to see the video, so we just don't open it for everyone to watch. So it doesn't start off right and then starts getting layered with the wrong intentions. So I will share this after the class once I get the video, right? I will send you a link to the video. I will even send you a link to the slides, so you have the slides if you want to make any reference at all. So I will email you both of those after the class, and then we will work on putting them on YouTube or on Instagram so that you can see them. Okay. So we just have 4 minutes left on the class. Ebele, I want to say thank you so much for the class, for joining us, for teaching, for sharing your insights. It's very beautiful. Thank you to everyone who stayed on the call. What I really, really like about this class is we started off with like 54 people or something, and there's still 41 of us here at the end of the class. So thank you for staying. If you can just do me a little favor. So I don't know if Fatima wants to speak. Fatima, I saw your hand before. Okay, if you have something to say, you can, go ahead. Would love to hear. No, okay, right, okay. So Abasi, please, when you unmute, tell me how to say your name perfectly. I want to pronounce it right. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Abasi Amayanga.
Amayanga, okay. Abasi Amayanga, okay. Thank you for that. Please go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to just add a little and emphasize on what our speaker had earlier said. Like she
So
said,
Abasi, there's sort of like a feedback. Apologies. So I don't know if you have two devices. So it would help to probably mute the other one, like just the volume, and then you can speak on this one.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to emphasize the need for teamwork, like you earlier said, it's really
Yeah.
necessary. I noticed that we are going to end this meeting very soon. I would love us to connect with each other. I think I saw someone that said she is a storyteller too. I'd love us to connect so that we can start putting what our tutor has told us already to work, so that the next year we organize this meeting, we'll know that we started something and this is where we are. It was really productive.
Yes, I thank you for saying that. Even in the previous session, somebody specifically asked us to create a WhatsApp group, and I had to explain that there were some for some issues we I didn't know at the time if we really could do WhatsApp. And the conversation, so in this class we have about 50 people. In the previous class we had the same in the first one. So the entire community right now, the conversations that we've had from the beginning, there's like three, I think there's 295 people coming together. So I'm going to try and find a place for us to come together. It might not be WhatsApp, but I'm definitely going to create a group for us to meet so that the conversation doesn't die here. So that you will find even in the email that I sent to you. If there's anybody that you want to connect with from the class, if there's somebody that you want to meet up with, I'd initially said that we should drop our socials in the chat so that we could connect. And I did see some, like LinkedIn, for instance, but I got pulled out of the call the first time. So when I review the script, I'll be able to reach out to the people who've dropped theirs. But if you want to do that right now, it's not too late. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, they're very easy, to follow. So you can just drop in the chats and then we can follow each other. But I'm also going to create a community for us. It'll be something that we can easily all just come together and move forward with the ideas that we've shared in this session. So I'm definitely going to do that. So thank you for that. So in 1 minute, I want to say thank you, Ebele, and thank you everyone who's stayed on the call, who's joined from the beginning. Thank you, Aisha, Binta, Bukola, Ruth, Abasia Mayanga. Thank you so much. You can drop yes, thank you. So I can already see them. So even after the class is over, you can still drop that. I'm going to leave it on for a couple of minutes so that we can have those connections. Right, okay. Yes, I can see. Yes. Okay. So officially, I want to say thank you and for staying, and this is as far as we can go. But I have Emanuela's hand up. So let's say after the class, if you have some time to stay back and network, please go ahead and do that. So Emanuela, the floor is yours.
Oh, hi. Good
Hi.
afternoon. Good evening. I'm just
Good
very happy
afternoon.
to be here. I didn't know about this meeting. There's a friend that sent it to me, and as somebody that is looking to venture into economic public policy, I am very grateful for the class. That was what I was saying.
Thank you so much, Emanuela. We're so grateful to have you here as well. Okay. All right. So, Evelyn, do you want to say 1 or 2 words to tell us goodbye?
Thank you so much, Wafa, for having me. Thank you, Aisha. It was really great connecting with everybody and just being inspired by, Mrs. Vinta's her resilience, her motivation and ginger for public change. Thank you for the wonderful questions, Bukola Ruth. I'm definitely going to forget people. This is why I don't like naming names. But thank you to everyone for joining. I see like a lot of people that I know that joined because I
Yeah.
shared. I'm really
All
thankful.
right.
And most importantly, thank you all to Heaven for putting this together. I think this series are really, really important, especially like equip us as women with the skills, with the network, with just like everything that we basically need to create a better society for ourselves. So you guys are doing such a great job and basically please keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you. So we have come to the end of the class. Not to worry, if there's anybody that you want to connect with here, when you get the script for the class, you can still click on the LinkedIn and the Instagram links, and it will take you directly to those people. So thank you so much, everyone. Please enjoy the rest of your day and see you next Saturday for the finale. Thank you and bye.